Is Robert De Niro ready to burn Jimmy Kimmel live to the ground? In a fiery Los Angeles studio in May 2025, the Hollywood legend faced off against the king of TV provocation, Jimmy Kimmel, in a showdown that promised to explode with scandal. Spotlights blazed like lasers, reflecting off glossy walls, as audience phones buzzed with X posts. De Niro versus Kimmel. It's gonna be a fight. Kimmel live. The electrified crowd waited to see if De Niro would tear the stage apart with his signature candor, or if Kimmel would trap him for viral headlines. In 2025, when talk shows thrived on clickbait and media chased every scandal, this interview smelled like gunpowder. Jimmy Kimmel, with his predatory grin and glint in his eye, was a master of chaos. His show flourished on the edge where humor turned into provocation, and guests became pawns in a ratings game. Tonight, his prey was Robert De Niro, the 81-year-old icon whose roles in Taxi Driver and Raging Bull made him a legend, and whose bluntness was a threat to careless hosts. De Niro arrived to promote his new film, a crime drama already buzzing in Oscar predictions. But backstage, his team clutched a contract with clear rules. No personal questions, just work. Crew members whispered, "Kimmel's planning something dirty. This won't end well." Kimmel bounded onto the stage, his movements honed like a predator's. "Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Robert De Niro," he proclaimed, and the studio erupted in applause. De Niro stepped into the light, in a sharp suit, his gray hair gleaming, his eyes scanning Kimmel warily. He shook the host's hand, sat, and surveyed the audience like a general before battle. Kimmel started casually, asking about the film. De Niro answered with charisma, his anecdotes drawing laughs. But then Kimmel shifted, his smile turning sticky. "Bobby, you've worked with Joe Pesci for years. Rumors say he was, let's just say, not an angel on the set of The Irishman. What's the story?" Cameras zoomed in, catching the tension on De Niro's face. The audience hushed, sensing scandal. De Niro leaned forward, his voice calm but sharp. "Jimmy, we agreed. The film, the career, nothing personal. Let's play fair." Kimmel just smiled, his eyes sparkling. The show had just become a powder keg. Kimmel didn't back down. "Oh, Bobby, don't be so boring," he said, his voice sweet but venomous. "The audience wants the real De Niro, the one who tears it up in Raging Bull. Joe Pesci didn't scare you, did he?" The audience laughed nervously, but the tension grew. X posts multiplied. "Kimmel's poking De Niro. Kimmel." Liv De Niro clenched his fists under the table, but his voice stayed cold. "I'm here to talk about work, Jimmy. My relationship with Joe? Not your business. You knew the rules." Kimmel leaned closer, his smile ablaze. "Come on, Bobby. People love it when you explode. Tell us something about Pesci. Is he really as intense as his characters, small but ferocious?" Cameras caught De Niro's sigh, his gaze turning icy. "Jimmy, I've been in this industry longer than you've been breathing. I don't play your clickbait games. We set boundaries. You're stomping on them." The audience fell silent, sensing the show teetering on the edge. Backstage, producers whispered into earpieces, "Steer him to jokes." But Kimmel, smelling a sensation, doubled down. "Bobby, you sound like a grumpy old man," he said, his tone mocking. "Can't you loosen up? Did Pesci teach you to be this dull?" The jab was blatant, and the audience gasped. X posts flared. "Kimmel's crossing the line! Respect Bobby." De Niro leaned forward, his voice quiet but razor sharp. "You know, Jimmy, I respect people who respect others. You invited me here, but you're acting like this is your circus. I'm not your clown." The audience erupted in mixed reactions. Applause, whispers, shouts. Kimmel tried a joke. Maybe Joe Pesci would have been a livelier guest. But the quip flopped, and the tension only grew. De Niro didn't back off. "You want to know about Joe? Fine. I'll tell you why I don't play your games. We worked, we argued, we laughed, but we respected each other. That's something you don't get." Kimmel went all in. "Respect? Don't you think you're overplaying this legend role? People want drama, Bobby, not lectures." The audience gasped, and X buzzed, "Kimmel's digging his own grave." De Niro rules. De Niro smiled, his eyes steel. Jimmy, you think you can provoke me because it's your stage, but I don't dance to your tune. Cameras captured every moment, from Kimmel's tense shoulders to De Niro's piercing stare. Kimmel, sensing he was losing control, made a final push. Bobby, come on, give us something real. What do you really think of Joe Pesci? Is he as much of a jerk as his characters in Casino? The word jerk hung in the air, crude and provocative. The audience froze, awaiting De Niro's reaction. Producers held their breath, knowing the show was on the brink of explosion. De Niro stared at Kimmel, his face unreadable, but his eyes sparking with anger. He leaned forward, his voice low and cutting like a blade. You want the truth, Jimmy? Joe Pesci's a complete jerk when it comes to stupid questions like yours. But you know what? You're an even bigger jerk thinking you can manipulate me for your clickbait headlines. The studio exploded. The audience gasped, then laughed, some bursting into applause. A young crew member near the stage shouted, "He said what he said!" Cameras caught the moment, and the clip hit 2 million views on X in minutes. Kimmel, stunned, tried to save face. Wow, Bobby, that was spicy, he said, his smile wavering. But De Niro wasn't done. You asked for real, Jimmy. Let me remind you of your own words. In 2023, you told Variety, I want my guests to feel respected. Where's that respect now? The audience roared with applause, louder than ever, and even crew members nodded. Kimmel leaned back, his fingers gripping the desk. Cameras caught his strained face, and numbered De Niro roasts trended on X. The crew member who shouted clapped along, and producers looked shaken. The moment shifted the dynamic. De Niro, seen as just a guest, became a voice of authenticity exposing Kimmel's manipulations. TikTok clips spread like wildfire, captioned, De Niro destroys Kimmel with one word. The studio audience, initially stunned, rallied behind De Niro, their applause sounding like a protest. Kimmel tried to salvage it. All right, Bobby, you win this round, he said with a forced laugh, but his voice shook. Let's get back to the movie, okay? But the audience shouted, let him speak. X posts surged. De Niro showed Kimmel what respect looks like. De Niro roasts. De Niro shook his head. Jimmy, I came here to talk about art. You made it a circus. I'm done. He stood, removed his mic, and walked off, his posture radiating dignity. The audience erupted in ovations that turned into a protest against Kimmel. Kimmel tried a joke. Well, that was unplanned. But it fell flat. Audience members stood and left, and TikTok clips of De Niro's statement hit 12 million views by the show's end. The next day, Variety wrote, De Niro demolishes Kimmel live, and CNN called it a moment of media accountability. On X, Archer De Niro roasts hit 20 million views. Kimmel issued a weak apology, but his ratings tanked, and advertisers paused partnerships. De Niro gained a wave of support. At a press conference, he said, I didn't want to fight, but when someone crosses your boundaries, you speak up. His Pesci comment was taken as humor, but his refusal to tolerate manipulation landed hard. Pesci, rumor has it, sent De Niro a joking emoji. Hollywood buzzed about talk show reform. Guests demanded clear boundaries, citing De Niro. The Television Producers Association proposed new guidelines. In 2025, De Niro's stand became a symbol of authenticity. In a 2025 media landscape chasing sensations while society craves sincerity, one sharp comment can change everything. Robert De Niro didn't just call Joe Pesci a complete jerk. He challenged a culture where respect is sacrificed for ratings. His refusal to play Kimmel's game reminded us that boundaries matter and truth outweighs manipulation. This moment begs the question, do we let media cross our boundaries for entertainment? De Niro showed dignity matters more than applause. How would you respond if someone crossed your boundaries? Share on X with # stand for respect. In 2025, one voice can shift the conversation. Which voice will be yours?